tour manager just told me that when you're on stage and you do what you do there, you sort of lose control. Is that true? Or?
Yeah, I mean that's the purpose. It's got to be that way. It's got to be that element in it, or it's just showbiz. It's just pop music. It's got to be more than that. It's got to be a real thing. People's music.
But to be so intense, so often and for so many years, isn't that like crazy, like difficult?
Well, not if you really love it. I mean, we don't know what else to do, so to us it's very natural. But it's very hard. But it's lots of things are hard. Things are hard for artists. Things are hard for anybody that's really passionate about something. But that doesn't mean they would stop doing it.
Like the things you have on your foot, they look kind of bad. I mean, that happened during the show?
I always get pretty banged up.
Yeah? I like your shoes, by the way.
Yeah, toe cleavage.
What?
Toe cleavage.
What's that?
Toe cleavage here.
Cracks.
Oh. Where did you get the shoes?
At the Tall Woman's shop in Los Angeles.
Tall girl shoe shop.
Tall girl shoes.
She's a tall girl.
Do you consider your music as teenage music?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it should be teenage music. It's music that should horrify adults and please teenagers. I mean, that's how it started out anyway. I think that's what's wrong with rock music today. It's music for adults. It's respectable and it's good and it's art and it's all these kind of things. That's fine for music, but people kind of don't understand the difference between rock and roll, which is a lifestyle, a fashion, a music, it's sexual intercourse, it's a lot of things, and rock music is just merely music. Rock and roll is much bigger than that, Some people confuse rock music with rock and roll. Rock and roll is much better.
But I mean, the times have changed, since the 50s. I mean,
yes, but good rock and roll is always good. I mean, we're not interested in playing 50 songs. That's why we write our own lyrics. But the thing that made rock and roll great in the 50s makes rock and roll great today. It's an urgency. It's a danger. It's a true kind of folk music based on the blues. It means something to people. It brings a certain kind of people together. It separates the squares from the cool people. Pop music doesn't do that. Pop music is just for everyone's entertainment. Rock and roll is something more than that.
Yeah, and how about when the people that make the music, like you, I mean, you're no teenagers anymore.
Yes,
so.
Well, you don't have to be a teenager, but it's music for teenagers. It's music for the young at heart. I'll put it that way. It's music for people who. It doesn't matter how old you are. What matters is your outlook. I know people who are 18 who are old and boring already. I think some people grow up and then realize it's not what it's cracked up to be, and realize that the things that you thought when as a youth are where it's at. It's what it's all about.
You guys like being on Brett's label?
Oh yeah. I love being on Brett's label. I just like going to their office. We live about 10 minutes from there.
In Barrio?
No. We used to. We used to live in East Hollywood, for years. And we moved to Glendale by Forest Lawn Cemetery, which is still really near there. It's like right after Silver Lake, because Epitaph is in Silver Lake, and right after Silver Lake, east of that is Glendale. And just all the hot rod stuff. Did you see he's got that big car engine for a desk and the blue room, and he designed the furniture and stuff. Some of it, the baby coffin with the rat fink arms, and it's a piano bench.
So how did you hook up with Epitaph? How did that happen? Did they call you? Did you call them?
We called them. They did our vinyl for Flame Job, our previous album. A lot of bigger labels in America don't put out 12-inch vinyl. And somehow he had done some kind of I don't know the details of the deal, that he did a deal with our record company then to do the vinyl. And he did a real good job. And also we were touring with an Epitaph band with Gashuffer was opening for us. And we kept seeing all this really great promotion for Gashuffer. And we wished we were getting that kind of promotion. It was more like underground fanzine promotion. So that was all we wanted when our other record company kind of just fell apart. They went out of business. And no, we went straight to Epitaph, and we were really hoping we didn't want to go to any other label. We just thought, I hope this is what they want. And we went there, and he was real excited. You know, it was like there was no question or trying to. He didn't have to sell Epitaph to us. We didn't have to sell the Cramps to him. We just said, crazy. It's cool.
Okay, having coffee with the Cramps part 2. You guys still consider yourselves punk?
Sort of punk attitude. I think when our band started, we were considered part of a punk scene, and that we saw ourselves as fitting in that at that time. I think punk has kind of evolved to mean more of a musical style in most people's minds, which doesn't even, I don't even think the Sex Pistols fit in to the musical style that's considered punk now. It's kind of more of a real fast, more specific thing. But yeah, the philosophy of it, the whole stay sick philosophy of us is also very punk.
I always thought that I always hated that word punk, though. It sounds like, William Burroughs said that he always thought punks were guys that took it up the ass.
Well, it is in a prison. That's what they call in prison, the guy that is.
Drops his soap.
I always kind of thought what we were doing was the only good thing, and all these other bands on the radio and stuff like that were just pop shit,
So
some of the bands now don't sing punk to us. We have a song called Garbage Man, and had a line in it, "You ain't no punk, you punk." And sometimes we'll think that we'll even just be watching TV of, I don't want to name names, but just a very successful punk band, and we'll just say, "You ain't no punk, you punk."
I got a call from an old Cramps fan this morning when he found out that I was about to meet you guys, and he was like, "Oh, please ask him what the new album is like. Is there going to be songs like a Garbage Man in there?"
It's techno. Our new album is techno. We've completely changed.
Yeah, we opened our ears.
Don't disappoint that guy.
Yeah, people have been trying to tell us to be more open-minded for years. We finally saw that they were right.
It's techno music, and the subject matter is about my parents who got a divorce, and it's really made me feel so unhappy. I just want to write lots of songs telling the world how badly I've had it.
Yeah.
Growing up in suburbia.
We want to share our personal pain with the world. It's so interesting.
Hey, you recorded the first album in the Sun Studios, right?
Yeah, it was Sam Phillips' studio, which was
The gangster around Elvis.
Huh?
The gangster guy around Elvis.
Gangster guy.
Did he rip off Elvis?
Oh no, he didn't rip off Elvis.
Well, he might have. Who knows? He's a shrewd businessman, whatever that is. But oh no, Sam Phillips is wonderful. He's responsible for that sound, and he didn't just have it. He wasn't just a businessman. He was the recording engineer at those sessions. He was the one who recognized that something special was happening. There's a very famous recording of him with Jerry Lee Lewis, where Jerry Lee Lewis wants to stop recording right in the studio because he's also very religious. He has he's saying, "But I can't do this. This is the devil's music," and it's this famous conversation, and you hear Sam Phillips, speaking over the speaker to him, convincing him that it's worth doing and that it's not a contradiction with his religion to do this devil's music.
Saying that rock and roll can save souls too. It doesn't just damn souls. It saves souls too. Now you might be getting Sam Phillips mixed up with the Colonel. He's the one that ripped off Elvis.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You guys were around when New York punk really got going, right?
Yeah.
Ramones, you guys toured with Ramones?
We didn't tour with the Ramones, but we opened for them locally, and they gave us our start. They really did. They were, because before we played with them, we weren't known much at all, and we even had difficulty getting booked into CBGBs, and then the Ramones came to our shows. All the bands would go and see each other's shows, and they invited us to open for them, to support them, and their fans liked us. And we were told that they wouldn't. They said it was like throwing Christians to the lions if you opened for the Ramones, and it was great. And that's that was the biggest break we've had in our entire lives was that, because then we could play and get booked on our own, and everything started from there.
You always hear stories that the New York punk scene back then was so much more fun than any music style now. Is it true?
Yeah, it was a real lifestyle. I mean, there was no news. No news wanted to know anything about it. It was completely secret thing for a long time. You know, like before the Sex Pistols hit or something. That's when all of a sudden the news started paying attention that something weird was happening. But before that, it was just completely secret thing that nobody knew about except the band. The same bands would go see the bands that were playing. You know, a band that was playing on Wednesday night, the next night would go see the band that came to watch them the night before, and. It was really fun, you know. Back in those days, New York was kind of a scarier, more dangerous place than it is now. It's a real swell kind of place, real yuppie-fied and everything. But it was great fun. I'm real thrilled that that's where we started.
So how is that you guys are still going strong and everything disappeared from that scene except the Ramones, but like a lot of people just sort of
Finished.
What amazed us at the time is a lot of the bands who got signed by the labels, you know, with Blondie and Talking Heads and Television, what the public ended up hearing was nothing what any of those bands were like live, or even the B-52s that came later. They were all rock and roll bands. They were all had this kind of like punky, edgy, tough kind of quality to them, and it might be hard to imagine, but they all seem to have something in common. But by time they had their record deal, went in the studio with their producer, and it came out to the public, was nothing like what we would see, because we would go see Blondie and Talking Heads, and it all went together to us. It was all rock and roll. So that changed. It wasn't just that bands aren't around now, but just immediately, as soon as the labels got them, and the whole machinery that kicked in just kind of took it away.
Seeing like Television back before they had their record deal, which took them a long time to get, was like seeing the Yardbirds or something. It was like real. They would play like Psychotic Reaction and stuff like that. And they were just a real crappy rock and roll band. And all of a sudden they had a record deal, and it was just like this fluid, just rock music thing, you know. And it's the same thing with the Talking Heads. They sounded like disco when they had a record, but they sound more like the 1910 Fruit Gum Company or something before they had a record deal. And you know, I love all those guys, the records too and stuff, but it was really, that was the most fun about seeing all these bands before they had any record deals and stuff, because they were really different bands.
So how have you guys managed to keep your own identity through all those years? You've never succumbed to pressure from record companies?
We haven't, although I keep wondering, would that have happened if we were young and not as, you know, if they'd signed us right away, would we have just gotten sucked into some kind of thing before we knew what hit us, you know, and not be what we are today? You know, I mean, I can't even judge what happened to somebody else, because we were one of the bands that didn't have that kind of success anyway. And it's just, so we just have always, I don't know though, but also our band, we started out of a love. It was elements we loved that create. That was why we do what we do. It wasn't because we could be successful and that maybe this could be a hit. That was never why we did it. And we still love those same things. Some people say we don't grow, but we thought these things were timeless when our band started. That's why they influenced us. We saw common elements in rockabilly and 60s garage and the Ramones and the New York Dolls. All these things, to us, there was a thing in common. And we still love all of that. That still inspires us.
But even before we went to New York, we had thousands of records that we've been collecting in junk stores, you know, rockabilly and blues records and stuff like that. This was our life, you know. We'd go see all these other bands and stuff, and it was real fun. We liked being hanging out in the scene and everything. But we had a really strong idea of exactly what we wanted to do before we started, and the way it came out was probably sounded so weird to record companies that none of them wanted anything to do with us, because they just couldn't have a clue, you know, how could you make that sound like something good, you know. So I think that was lucky in a way. We weren't even approached by record companies, but I think even if we were, we would have told them, get lost. We can't do anything but what we do.
I kind of like it that we were the one band that couldn't see anything worthwhile, because with Talking Heads, Ramones, Television, Patti Smith, who are all very different from each other, all these labels could see something that they could use in that, but with us it was just, there's nothing there. They couldn't see anything useful in what we did.